turn that off. Now, I really has it gone? There it is. This is my favourite jacket ever. Right, now this is the silliest pitch Kickstarter ever. That's not. I got an illness. I try to say things when it's boring just discussing or pitching one thing. Now, in there is the key to life. I wish to leave the region because the energy is so bad. It's clearing. There's a kind of, the word is conformity. There's a notion you mustn't rock the boat. There's a notion that big business is going to always provide everything. And yet when you speak to big business, they know. Now, despite looking like a tramp, hobo, key to life is I always have one of them in my back pocket. If I'm dealing with somebody a horrible word, if I encounter somebody, you see, this was kind of planned, but it's not planned. Not going to plan. Now, just battling through the things you have to do. Put £50 from the Santander account to my Virgin account, etc., etc. It's such a pain in the arse these days. We need to cooperate, muck in together more. But in regions like this, the provinces, people can't articulate this. Now, my film isn't about that. Or rather, the film of 2003, 4, 5 isn't about that. But assumptions, these differences, the person that comes down wearing the £75 walking boots and they're measuring you up. Well, if I've got my... Actually, they're quite new, but everything falls to bits now. If I look slightly trampish and want to be finding out about this person, I might pull out my not ironed, it's actually washed and then dried on the line such that it's easily foldable handkerchief. That breaks down the preconceptions that just get in the way of everything. But be clear, it's wonderful being this age because I have one thing in life which I worry about. If I write a blog or something, I do a couple incognito because I just want to be free. I want to be free of... I'm nobody, but... It's time to leave this country for me, most of the time. So what film person or potential partner is going to think well of that? I can pop back and forth any old time. And I'm so absurdly organised, as I say 100 times. I know it's terribly boring and narcissistic. But there's two things in the background of everything in British society, which is, actually, we don't have enough space. There is no answer. I personally like living like this. I function better like this. but we can't have the whole country plodding around and setting themselves up in the middle of nowhere so they can think, or rather so they're left free to think, which has been my privilege, not because of money. I've put aside all pride and doff my cap, even if it's just doffing my cap down the DWP, playing the charade just to survive. So that's the first. Myself, well, no, it's not the story. Getting off to the continent where there is 2, 3, 4 times more space overall per person, which does change society, does change people's psyches deep down. Oh yes. So occasionally I like to write about the truth of living in the countryside. It's very, very badly affected now by man-woman, actually, or woman-man. I talk a lot, speak a lot with local people holding on. Small farms, medium-sized farms, but small farms are definitely not viable without a good, tight family operation. They're just not viable. And I say to people, all I care about is the 100-acre farm. And that's basically true, because that's good for the environment, that is better for the environment, and virtually everybody agrees. And it's a kind of more wholesome, maybe adaptable thing. Anyway, let's not go on to farming. So, family things, I mean, round here, 3 miles over there, there's a farmer I knew over quite a few years. I used to chat with him. He would be looking after an aristocrat's garden. He had 100 acres and met his daughter as well. I think he's got 3 daughters. He had 100 acres, 150 acres 10 years ago, and then there was a divorce. And it wasn't actually a terribly, terribly acrimonious divorce with arrests and everything, but they couldn't settle and find a fair solution. And the land and the farm ended up going to lawyers. Neither of them managed to compromise and work together such that, and they lost everything. So this stuff does matter. Going off the track, I believe in total and utter openness, and that's the reason why it's no fun in the provinces anymore. Hasn't been for a long time actually, but I think it's got worse the last couple of years. There is this kind of, you can't say that, don't frighten the horses, we're going to almost be, well, we actually have returned to almost this feudal thing of certain people born, they don't consider themselves rich, but they are rich, born to larger acreages, they are the employers. And you have to doff your cap in that subtle way that I can't really do, which is you have to be of the same apparent values and beliefs. That's not good. So personally, I just want to be anywhere in Europe where there are far fewer people around. That's the reason. But I like to write now and again online, and in theory one would have always complete and utter openness. Names, links, everything. Comments. Of course you should leave your comments open. First time I started to write a blog 4 or 5 years ago, a sort of fresh new thing, I said, no, I'm not going to leave my comments open, because that whole system Oh, this is wank. It's just a form of wanking, actually. If someone's got anything interesting to say, well, you get to this age, it's not arrogance. You know enough. And in my case, I'm going to spend the next decade of my life quite happily, just occasionally sticking it down into paragraphs, into this, that, and the other, podcast, whatever. I have no ambition to do much more. And the point is that I've seen this in friends of mine, particularly the last 2 years. The internet, this model of discussion online. I forget about trolls and all of that. It's just not really working. I mean, actually, I met the farmer of this land here an hour ago. He came by. He was just nosy. He's just didn't make it open, but he drove down here. And we had a good chat. And I actually did learn something. He actually said himself, although he was only later 40s, he actually said, oh, my age group are just, we're a bit different. And he wouldn't have said that online. Now, that might sound absurd. Of course he's going to say that online. No. That's the kind of, we were discussing how there's going to have to be a slightly more regenerative approach, because the inputs, the price of inputs, he was saying, 297 pound per tonne to buy fertiliser, now it's £1,000. So, as I said to him, 2 or 3 years ago, if you'd had that discussion, you'd be, somebody like me would be accused of being a lunatic hippie. Now, we're able to have that discussion. But that discussion only took place because I opened with saying, well, I was brought up farming at the height of the top of that hill. And I make a joke that farming here is gardening. So we got a thing going, and he trusted me, and he let out, I'm sure he would be communicating to other people occasionally, but he let out to me that, oh, he's going to be looking into sowing clover and that kind of thing, which is regenerative farming, using natural systems of putting inputs into the soil. This kind of febrile, judgmental approach that happens online, 4 or 5 years ago, it just gets us nowhere. But I've so seen over the last, particularly 3 or 4 months, it seems to have damaged people even more. People I've known quite a long time. So I won't be having any comments open anywhere. I'd want to, but if anybody wants to take any part in anything I do, just email, text is better. But I don't want anybody saying. I mean, I care. I am the person trying to put something out there. I've long thought about it. I care that it's done as superbly as possible. I really do care, because although it's not about her in any way, it relates to the only person on this planet who I will always value, no matter what, above any other human being, by far. So I care. But I don't need advice, chat, comment, opinion. I've been pondering it for a long, long time. Nor do I need opinion on me putting up hours of silly film. I don't need opinion. It's irrelevant to me. I ponder and then I walk the hill. And if there's anything in my approach that anybody else might find useful, I know the way. I know the emotional blackmail into, of course you can't emotionally blackmail a corporation, but emotionally blackmail, it's not emotional blackmail. I mean, this morning we hear on the news, I don't think I've ever heard them, the famous guy in the Foo Fighters died of opiates. You know, getting something more intelligent, more widely available about that if my little thoughts, notions, ideas, call them whatever you want, call them inspirations, get anywhere, and there's an article in the Guardian saying, shock horror, film planned about healthy psychologies for children is part funded by the, is it Purdue Sackler Corporation? Yeah. If that gets people thinking and talking about the issue, which I know is in my monologue and it's quite good, I don't care. Well, no, that's a good thing. It's a good thing, but it's not a thing for me. I've got in my various hard drives, etc., years of pondering on all sorts of things that interest me that I will be putting out over the years into the public conversation, or to some extent, and maybe some of it will end up in the odd little book or something, or written online. And I like writing poetry. There was a very good something understood this morning. I will leave it at that. All I know is we need less confected culture, less. It seems I worry about one thing only, that the younger generation is served up culture, which is slightly telling them what to think. No, that's not really good. Anyway, this is not handkerchiefs. That's what matters. They should not be white, because white requires more energy and washing material to keep them clean. So it's only because I had them years and years ago. They're probably 30 years old, these, if not older. Right. Get everything charged, and I've got literally 2 litres of fuel, but everything's planned. Everything's planned. 3 days ahead. I know I'm going that way, and I shall be walking later on this afternoon to the fuel station. The one that way will be open. I got money, I just ain't got an MOT until Tuesday. Only got a bit of money, that's the key. If I had more money, I'd be taking myself for a fancy lunch. No, I wouldn't, not really. But I'd have something to do with that money. Not having the money means, not that I need anything out of this, but why not? It clears my mind to focus. I'd like to get this out of the way, and then maybe to do more interesting films one day. Going to Bolivia and filming those bin girls and men.